All right. So what do we have to remember when we are using subtraction from last unit? Yes, same, change. So this first one I do same, change, and I get -3 and a +10, which is a +7. Remember, if you owe someone 3 and you have $10 in your pocket, then that would be a +7. Okay, so the next one would be same, change again. I just add just 9 and 6, which would be 15. All right, -4 plus -7. So I owe someone 4, I owe someone 7, I owe a total of $11, and it would be negative. Okay, if I have 6 minus 8, I do same, change, and I get -2. Number 5, same, change. If I owe someone 3 and I have 12 in my pocket, I have 9 left over. 6, same, change. -7 and -12. I'm just going to add those two together and get -19. Same, change. I just add those two together and get 23. Okay, still going. Same, change. -14 and 6. So if I owe someone 14, I give them $6. What's my balance? -8, right? I would still owe them 8. Same, change. Just add those two together and I would get 12. These are both negative, so I just add them together. So that would be -15. Same, change. If I owe someone 6 and I have 4, I still owe them 2. This one, this is I borrowed 5, but I have 16 in my pocket. I pay them back, I have 11. Same, change. I owe someone 17. I give them 12. I still owe them. There you go. Same, change. They're both positive, so I just add them together and get 17. Okay? Any questions on any of those? Like I said, at the end of this topic, you're going to have to be able to do all 4 operations together. So that's why it's important that we continue to review this skill. All right, so specifically, what are we going to do today? Today, we're going to understand how to multiply and divide. And I went ahead and kind of threw these two together because they have the exact same rules. And we're going to focus on just integers today. And then we're going to focus on rational numbers the next day. So that will be your fractions and decimals. All right, so let's just look at the rules first of all. Okay, when you are multiplying integers, it's a simple rule. Okay, if you have 2 positives, just like in kindergarten, so a positive and a positive, the answer is still positive. Remember, your kindergarten teacher was not wrong. Well, actually, when did you start multiplication? Maybe 3rd grade? Oh, you guys are advanced. Okay, 2nd grade. All right, so positive times a positive is always a positive. Okay, but if you have a negative times a negative, it's also a positive. So I always say a negative number times a negative number takes 2 negatives to make positive. Okay, if you have 1 negative, so like this is a positive times a negative, it's negative. 1 negative, a negative times a positive, negative. Does not matter the order. So this doesn't matter what the number is, it just matters what the sign is. Jenna. As long as you don't have 2 of them. Sure. You want to think about it like that? All right, so let's do some examples. So 6 times -5. It has 1 negative, so it would be -30. Positive times a negative is always going to be negative. It has 1 negative, it's going to be negative. Okay? -7 times positive 10. -70. Okay? Negative times a negative is going to be a positive 6. Negative times a positive is a negative and then 20. Okay? So then I put some division problems up here because it's the exact same rules. Okay? So what would -24 divided by 8 be? -3. Good, because there was 1 negative. What about -15 divided by -5? +3. I mean, that's it. See, these rules are way easier than adding and subtracting, right? You just have to remember, 2 negatives make a positive, 1 negative, it's negative. Okay? All right, let's go on to the next slide because we're going to change it up just a little on you. Okay, so now we have more than 1 negative. Okay? What I want you to think about is last time, every time we had 1 negative, the answer was 1 negative, the answer was negative. But if I had 2 negatives, the answer was positive. So what do you think 3 negatives is going to be? Negative. I don't hear both. Okay. What about 4 negatives? sense what she just said? Two negatives make a positive. So if I do 4, would these two make positive and these two make positive? Yeah. So it'd be positive. So what do you think about 6? What about 8? What about 10? Why am I picking those numbers? Because they're all evens. So here's kind of a unique rule. If there's an even number, then the answer is always going to be positive because they'll cancel out. Does that make sense? They'll always cancel out because 2 negatives always make positive. So what do you think the flip side of that is? Good. Odds are always going to be negative because if there's 1, it's negative. If there's 3, these 2 will cancel out, but there'll be 1 left over. If there's 5, then you've got these all cancel out. Oh, that's 5. That was 6, wasn't it? Okay, if you have 5, these cancel out, and you have 1 negative left over. You always have a negative left over. Okay, so if I look at this first one, is my sign going to be positive or negative? 2 negatives make a positive. What about this sign? Positive or negative? How many negatives are there? 2. So it's going to be, okay. What about this sign? Negative, because there's only 1 negative. What about this sign? Good, positive. What about this sign? How many negatives are there? Just 1, so it's going to be negative. 1 negative is always negative. Okay, what about this sign? How? There's 3. So if there's 3, isn't that odd? So that's got to be negative. Okay, because a negative and a negative makes a positive, and then you've still got another negative left. So this is going to be a negative. Okay, what about this one? Positive, good, because there's 2 of them. What about this one? Negative, good. What about this one? Negative. Negative, because there's 1 negative. Okay, is that okay? Doing all right? Okay, because we're going to play some games and do some other stuff with it today, too, that I think will help. All right. How about you guys go ahead and take a look at this slide and see if you can answer this question based on what we just did.
I need the following students to report to the gym: Johnny Wilson, Vince Reichert, James Mueller, Aiden Johnson, True Clark, Mason Ace, Evan Samborski, Peyton Sosna, and Tate Smith.
It's like perfect timing. Okay, do that slide. All right, are we ready? No? In a minute. All right, let's go ahead and look at this one. So what sign would this one be? Positive. And why is it positive? 2 negatives. So there's a negative here and a negative here. So this will be a positive. So 3 times 2 is 6, times another 6 is 36. So this is a positive 36. Is that equivalent to 36? Yes. Okay. All right. Oh, what's wrong? Why am I going what way? Oh, you wanted me, because I like to do it mentally. And if I do 6 times 2 and get 12, that's harder for me mentally to then times 3, because I have to do 12 times 3. Where if I group this and get 6, I know 6 times 6 is 36. Because you can multiply in any order. All right, so number 2, should this sign be positive or negative? Positive, why? There's 2 negatives, good. So this is positive, 18 times 2 is 36, so this one works. Okay, number 3, how many negatives are there? 3, so the sign of this one should be negative. So this would be negative 36, which would not be equivalent, so that would not work. Okay, any questions on that? All right, so you guys are going to go over to Brightspace, and there's an activity in Brightspace that says in-class